सलाम मेरे अजीज पंखों।
They, I have not done anything wrong to anyone. So why do I always face all this problem? You give everything to everyone, but why you never show your blessing on me? It has been 2 hours since Jungkook left him alone after their marriage, and since those 2 hours, he has been crying and cursing himself. He tried his best to accept, but Jungkook had locked him in that room. The poor boy didn't even know where he was at that time. God, why do you never listen to me? Why? He was crying when a disturbance on the door made him jump on his place. Jungkook stepped into the room holding a tray of food in his hand. Jungkook, you again start crying? Saying this in his deep voice, Jungkook sat down on the floor just in front of Taeyong. He was already at the last corner of the room, so there was no space for him. Jungkook, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything wrong with you. Lifting his hand toward Tae, he was going to wipe his tear, but he gasped loudly with terror in his eyes. Tae, stay away from me. Jungkook left his both hands in the air just for a moment as he was surrendered in front of Taeyong and slowly nodded his head. Jungkook, okay, I'm not touching you. Now have lunch. He said politely, but Taeyong was still crying. Now tears were at the rest, but hiccups were still there to make breathe difficult for him. Jungkook, come on, have this. He gestured toward the food, but he glared at him with silent sob, then looked away. Jungkook, have not you listened? Have this. This time Jungkook's voice was furious, which terrified Taeyong, but the boy showed him his courage side by replying, Tae, I don't wanna eat. Jungkook glared at him, which sent chill down his spine and fresh tears appeared in his eyes. Jungkook, open your mouth, he ordered, and Taeyong looked away. Tae, I will not eat. Tae muttered, fixed his eyes on the wall when he felt a cold, metallic touch on his temple, which made his heart skip to beat. And that was the gun that Jungkook placed on his temple. Tae suddenly looked at him and cried out even more. Jungkook, open your mouth. This time it was impossible for him to refuse. Tears were rolling down from his eyes and he opened his mouth. Jungkook placed down the gun before giving the morsel in his mouth. After 2-3 morsels, they again refused to eat more, and he was not feeling to eat anymore. But Jungkook picked his gun again. They sobbed and hurriedly opened his mouth. They did not realize that for the first time in his life, someone was feeding him with his hand. Otherwise, no one had even cared about him if he has eaten something or not. Jungkook, neither I wanna frighten you or not wanna make you cry. Believe me, I always take care of you. I always provide you whatever you want. I'll protect you till my last breath. Holding softness in his voice and the gun in his hand, he expressed his true intention, but Taeyong's attention was fixed on the gun. They was scared. His ears didn't listen to a single word spoken by Jungkook, as terror was taken his innate ember. Jungkook, I will not harm you. Jungkook said while cleaning the tears from his left cheeks with his thumb. But before he could wipe the other cheek, they moved backward through there was no place to move backward. They stay away from me. Mr. John, where is that boy? It's been a week, but you have not got a single clue for him. What are you doing? Mr. John shouted on his loyal man. For 1 week he was trying to find out Taeyong, but getting no clue, which was making Mr. John angry and frustrated. In short, a devil, or better say, godfather of Lucifer. Jungkook, Appa, forget about that boy. Otherwise, also it's not your age about to get married. Think about your daughter wedding. Jungkook told his father while cleaning his gun, and Mr. John's eyes became redder than before. It's enough of your rubbish. Shut your mouth. Mr. John roared with a rage, and Jungkook glared at him back with the same anger. After all, they both had the same blood, which boiled very soon. Mr. John, where are you going? I told you to find out Taeyong. Have you got any clue about him or not? Mr. John shouted at Jungkook. when he took step toward the exit. Jungkook, what am I doing for so many days other than searching for that boy? Jungkook shouted in reply while tucking the gun in the waistband of his pant. Mr. John, once I find that boy, I give us such a remarkable and painful death. No, I'll make his life hell. The people will keep remember for a long time. The voice fell in Jungkook's ear before going out of the house. On the other second day of kidnapping, Jungkook didn't lock Taeyong in the room but allow him to go everywhere in the house. That was big and well furnished two-story house with 4 or 5 rooms and a big hall. But dirty as it was locked over years. For the whole 5 days they tried every way possible to get help, but unfortunately or maybe fortunately he was helpless. They tried his best, but after every successful attempt of running away from the place, Jungkook bought him new clothes, good food, and some other things too, just to make him happy. But every after the single struggle, he was unable to make they feel at home. Jungkook wanted they to treat him like his husband, but he was treating him like a kidnapper who deserved only hurted they. God, please help me. Please, this man has kidnapped me. He has been forced me to live in that place. He married me at gunpoint. Do something. His heart was still praying when he listened to a cracked voice from the door, which indicated Jungkook's arrival. They, God, please help me, he muttered, and they entered the room. Come, Taeyong, have lunch. You can pray later. They looked at him, then again shift his eyes on the other side. I'm not hungry, they replied without giving attention to Jungkook. They was feeling hungry but didn't want to take his favor, so lied. Jungkook, you should be ashamed of lying. Be afraid of God. Jungkook slightly glared at him, at white lie. He knew he was being hungry as there was not anything to eat at home and he was coming to meet him after 24 hours. He grabbed his arm and dragged his failing figure with himself. Jungkook, come and have dinner. They, leave my hand. They willing, but his journey was stopped on the bed. Sit here and keep your mouth shut. Jungkook scowled Taeyong and his eyes filled with tears. He sighed and sat down in front of Taeyong. Jungkook, Taeyong, stop crying. I'm sorry. He said, grabbed his hand which he tried to pull back. Come on, have food. You are hungry since last night. Jungkook said politely and Tae sniffed. Jungkook, is it good? He asked about the food and Tae nodded, with fearful expression on his face, but left the food after taking 2 bites only. Tae, please let me go. Tae requested innocently. Jungkook, why do you wanna go back? Tae was answerless on that question. He didn't have anyone whom he could a family, but still he wanted to go back to the place which was like a hell for him, just because he wanted to run away from Jungkook. Tae, that's my house. Let me go to my house. He again demanded and Jungkook lifted the morsel to his mouth, which he didn't want to eat from his hand, but he glared there, which made him shiver. They silently opened his mouth and take the morsel, unwilling his lips touch on his finger, an unusual feeling for both heart, but they both ignored that. Jungkook, which house are you talking about? The home whose member sold you to a man who is equal to your father age? They were shocked to hear that. They, what? That was a silent whisper left from their mouth. They moved back. He was not a lifeless material whom anyone can sell without his permission, but his so-called caretaker and guardians did so. The poor boy was deeply hurt. First time ever he felt that he need to end his life with his own hand. Who would be if he didn't even have the right to choose the way to live his life? That was a question of his existence. Jungkook, stop crying, he whispered, lifting his head to wipe the tears rolling down from his eyes. But he was stopped by Jungkook's act. He slowly shook his head, showing his hand to stop him. They, don't touch me. He wiped his tears and then looked away. First time ever Jungkook noticed his honey brown eyes. But this time he was holding a fear, but suddenly it was displaced by hatred. Jungkook. Taeyong. He cupped their face in between his both palms, which shuddered they. Can't you understand? Stay away. Don't touch me. This time Taeyong was not scared, but angry for the first time in his life. He tried to shout, but his voice was hardly audible. Jungkook. Jungkook, why do you hate me this much? I'm not like my father. At least try to understand me. They, oh really? Are not you like your father? First time Taeyong cross cautioned Jungkook. Not at all. They, your father had purchased me and you kidnapped. Jungkook did not let Tae complete his sentence. Taeyong, I have married you. It's not a sin. Yeah, I do agree the way was wrong, but still, I am not like my father. Tae, your father also want to marry me. And you also did the same at gunpoint after kidnapping me. What's the difference between you both? They, who am I? A lifeless material? Someone sold me, someone purchased me, and someone kept me forcefully. They shout, first time ever in his life. He was showing his anger and first time ever in his life. Jungkook was torturing someone anger. Taeyong, you are my husband. What husband? I'm not your husband, but a person in your house. They tried to shout but only could mumble at that time. They stood up and looked here and there, find a place where he could let all the tears flow freely. Jungkook was feeling helpless to gain what he wanted. He was not letting any room either to provide every single thing to make Taeyong happy, but he forget the happiness is an emotion that one cannot bring in his life with expensive items. On the other hand, Taeyong, down on the floor of the kitchen, rested his back against the wall and hugging his knees. It's not a matter of a boy that he was almost sold to man who was going to marry in front of the world, but the reality, what was that? A marriage or a deal?